Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, usually joined by Chris Emerson, but today we are going to go solo because Summer League starts on Thursday and we got to talk about it. And before we get going, make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. On YouTube, we're almost up to 400 subscribers. We'd love for you to join the family. So hit that subscribe button, like, and tell a friend as well. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, give us a 5-star rating and leave a comment as well. So let's get right into it. The Wolves start their summer league on Thursday. Of course, a little background. The Wolves went 4-1 in summer league last year, although didn't make a playoff spot. So they got a fifth game that was pretty much useless. Fifth game, not really meaning anything, just kind of a getaway game, as they say in baseball. And interesting, I was going to ask Chris this, but think about, who do you think is the all-time leading scorer for a summer league season, which of course is only 5 or 6 games. I'll give you a hint while you think about it. 2007, a guard from Villanova. Can you figure it out? Of course, I'm talking about Randy Foye, the all-time leading points per game getter in Summer League for the Timberwolves, 24.8 points per game. Actually, it's interesting. Rob Dillingham is the all-time assist leader for a Summer League season, 7.8, which, of course, he got last year. The Wolves have been to the Summer League championship twice, in 2019 and 2016. Of course, in 16, they lost in double overtime to the Bulls. And in that year, the MVP of the league was our very own Minnesota's own Tyus Jones. So what the Wolves need to look for in this summer league, and I'll go through the entire roster in just a minute here, but what the Wolves need to look for in this summer league is who is going to take that 8th spot. Now, we assume that the lineup, unless barring a Bradley Beal thing, a Josh Giddey thing, a big move to maybe get rid of Rudy Gobert or Dante DiVincenzo, we think 1 through 7 is pretty set. We got Anthony Edwards, Randall, Jaden, Gobert, Conley, maybe. Some say Dillingham's going to start. I don't think right out of the bat that's going to happen. And then, of course, off the bench, you got DiVincenzo and Nas in whatever order you want to put them. The question is, who is going to be number 8 on this team? Who is going to be the third guy off the bench? And I know it's not as easy as that. And by the way, in the comments, let me know who you think should be the third guy off the bench for the Timberwolves. Should it be Jalen Clark? Should it be Terrence Shannon Jr., or should it be Rob Dillingham? And like I said, I know it's not as black and white in that. It's definitely matchup based. It's definitely positional based. But in a vacuum, who do you want to be the 8th guy off the bench? Because I don't think Johan Behringer or Joan Behringer or whatever they call him, I don't think he's going to be much of a factor, particularly if Rudy Gobert is on this team to start the season this year. I think he's just too raw. I think he's just too young to have much of an impact. Interestingly enough, I listened to his interview from 2 days ago going into Summer League, and this kid is raw. This kid is right out of France. I think he's just learning English. And this is not a knock on him at all, because like I said, stranger in a strange land, right? He's figuring out the U.S. basketball and the speed and how to be a professional at his age. But basically, the press conference, they were just trying to draw questions out of him or draw answers out of him. He did not have too many straightforward questions. In fact, some of the answers that he had, he just basically said yes or no. And you could tell that the press was trying to get more questions out of him, answers out of him, trying to build a narrative for their stories, but he wasn't given much, which is fine. He's a French player just learning how to be in the USA. But he did say that so far, what he has learned from just practice and simulated games is everything's faster than it is over in France. He has to get into that second gear. And like I said in a video, which you can check out on this channel, kind of a draft grade for Baron J, I should say. I think he's just going to be a defensive guy, at least initially, and maybe a little bit of a lob threat at the rim, if any. Like Chris was saying, I don't think he's going to play much other than the summer league, but he'll be fun to watch. Now let's get into the task at hand. They asked Kevin Hansen, the Wolves summer league coach, basically what he wants to see out of this team, and he was actually impressed with what he saw this year defensively out of Rob Dillingham. He said Rob competed this season. He just needs to be a nuisance on defense. And with how small Rob Dillingham is, I think that is totally spot on, because if he could just make like difficult, kind of maneuver through screens, kind of like Mike Conley. And actually, Rob Dillingham, which we'll get to in a little bit, did say that Mike Conley has been a huge influence for him. He said he's basically his boy. And what a luxury to your first year in the league to have a pros pro. Like when you think of a pros pro, the guy who you want to learn from, other than like a crazy freak athlete, like maybe like an Allen Iverson or I'm trying to think of other great point guards. Why am I blanking? Or like a not Jason Richardson. Sorry. I'm trying to think of or like a Russell Westbrook, right? You want to learn from Mike Conley, the guy who's never had a technical in the league, a guy who is just the pros pro, the prototype of what you want to learn from. I mean, Mike Conley, he's not huge. He's probably a stereotypical NBA point guard size, but man, he fights through screens, and that's what Kevin Hansen wanted to see out of Rob Dillingham. He also wanted to see on offense him push the paints, and he said he wants Rob Dillingham sometimes to play within the offense, but at certain times use your speed, use your ability, and just go. Like when the opportunity is given to you, just take the opportunity. And then he also mentioned that, and I was going to bring this up to Chris as well, he also mentioned that Summer League is more about honing their skills rather than picking up new skills. I think getting the new skills is more of a off-season thing. That's when you're working with your trainers. That's when every day you're trying new things. This is getting those skills and honing them in, getting them consistent for an NBA run that's just a couple months away. And what he said about Terrence Shannon Jr., and we'll go guy by guy here in a second, he wants him to be more of a two-way player. They know he can score. Like Kevin Hansen said that he's expecting Terrence Shannon to be the number one scorer for this team. And I think a lot of the fan base is expecting Terrence Shannon Jr. to have a great summer league for a couple reasons. One, he's probably older than I'd say 85% of the guys out there, more experience, 1 year experience. That's what he had going for him last summer league was his experience. I mean, he, like we say all the time, he's older than Anthony Edwards, and he's been playing in the college for like 5 years. So he's going to be one of the elder statesmen, I should say. And it's going to be an interesting go for him, because if we can see a lot defensively, we know he can score. We know we can plug him in and play great offense and get to the basket. And like Chris always says, be a great straight line driver. If we could see his defense improve and his shot improve as well, I mean, he could definitely be a candidate for the 8th spot on this team. And a lot of people are saying he's going to straight up replace Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who pretty much had the 8th spot last year. I don't know about that, but I almost think him and a combination of Jalen Clark might be able to do that. So I listened to Rob Dillingham's interview with the press, and he said he wants to get his confidence back. And he mentioned something interesting, that although he's in the NBA and he's playing every day, he's practicing every day, he doesn't get to play as much as he did back when he was in high school and on the AAU circuit. Because if you think about it, AAU circuit, what? You're playing every single day. You're playing 3 times a day. College, he was the 6th man of the year in the SEC. You're playing all the time. But he says he wants to get his confidence kind of going, kind of create the blueprint that's going to take him forward for the year. And I like what I hear out of that. Man, he's a great interview as well. And he said he was nervous going into last year's summer league, says that it's easier the second year. And he also, like I was saying, him with Mike Conley, he said that Mike Conley is his inspiration for setting up players, setting up the offense. Like, we want him to attack the basket. We want him to be a scorer. But if he's going to be a point guard in this league, he's going to need to set up other players and not turn the ball over as well. And he even said Mike Conley kept him sane. As a top pick, a lottery pick, you want to play, you want to contribute throughout the playoff run and through the games getting into the playoffs. And he wasn't able to. But the guy that kept him focused, the guy that kept him ready was Mike Conley. And as much as sometimes we drag on Mike Conley for maybe, I don't want to say slacking, but aging, which is natural for him, but kind of not being the same difference maker that he was in Memphis or even Utah and his declining age. Like I was mentioning, there is no better mentor for a young point guard than Mike Conley. Let's get into some of what Terrence Shannon had to say. He said that in this summer league, he's looking to dominate. He's looking to just be the bigger man out there. He knows that he has the age advantage. He knows that he has the experience advantage. They actually asked him, I mean, you're the elder statesman out there. Do you feel like it's a burden on you, or is it going to feel any different? He said, no, I just want to go out there and be the best I can be the best version of myself that I can be. And he also said that I'm always asking questions because I'm always trying to get better. And that's what you want to hear out of a player, particularly a player that is older and has had more years on everyone else. You worry about their decline, or maybe not even decline. You worry about them not accelerating as high as some of the players with a higher ceiling, like Rob Dillingham or even a Jalen Clark. But I don't worry about that with Terrence Shannon Jr. I think they're going to be able to plug him in. And I think if he can improve his defense, I think that he is going to be a huge piece for this team going forward. Like we like to talk about, that Oklahoma City game that the Wolves won, he was the talking point coming out of it. The boost that Terrence Shannon Jr. gave him, other than Ant, obviously, but he was the talking point coming out of that. And then, of course, Jalen Clark. I think the least amount of questions I have are about Jalen Clark, because I think he's settling into that 3-and-D role. I think that he is going to be a huge presence on this team going forward. I could honestly see, particularly if let's say the Wolves drop a game and they're not even in playoff contention for the summer league, I think game 4 or 5, I could see Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham, and Jalen Clark all getting pulled, because the Wolves front office are like, okay, we've seen enough. We got to get these guys ready for the stretch run. But I think this healthy competition, and I don't even know if there is a competition between them, between Terrence Shannon Jr. and really Jalen Clark, who are, we know that Rob Dillingham is going to be more of the guard-oriented or point guard-oriented talk going forward, but they could almost have a little competition, not take away shots from each other, but a friendly competition to take that ace spot. And I think it is right now between Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark. If I had to pick someone to come off the bench right now, just off of pure eye test, it would be Jalen Clark. I just think he's the most polished. I think he's the best defensively, which the Wolves talk about all the time, how important defense is. Everything starts with defense. Even I remember last year's Summer League, Wolves in post-game press conference, even when, it's not really that organized of games, it's kind of an afterthought. The outcome is kind of an afterthought in Summer League. But they talked about defense, and they knew that's how they were going to earn their spot. Honestly, Leonard Miller this year, I mean, he did well in last year's Summer League. I think he was one of their leading scorers, but I don't have high hopes for him, to be honest. I would love if he panned out and be like a break glass in case of emergency guy, but I don't know if he's earned the trust of this Wolves team. But let's take a look at the other players on the roster, and then we'll take a look at kind of a game by game looking forward. Obviously, we don't know the playoffs, or we don't know who the Wolves might play in that fifth game. Other players on this Summer League team, Amari Bailey from UCLA. He was a second-round pick of the Charlotte Hornets, number 41. In 2023, you got Martez Brown at an undrafted from the 2024 draft. You got Jamal Cain from Oakland, 2022 undrafted player. Also, Nogel Eastern. He's a shooting guard, 6'5", kind of a big shooting guard at 232 from Howard from the 2021 draft. You got Jesse Edwards back, CJ Fulton, of course, Leonard Miller. Tristan Newton is back from UConn 2024, second round pick of the Indiana Pacers. Des Watson and Bakar Sane. And then, of course, I believe the Rocco guy that we drafted, I don't remember his last name right now, but our second round pick, I think he is going to play as well. But really, when you talk Summer League, there's really four guys to watch, maybe five. It's Rob Dillingham, it's Jalen Clark, it's Terrence Shannon Jr., and then maybe Baron J if you want to see the big man of the future, potentially. So let's get into the Wolves schedule for Summer League, and it's going to be a fun one at the first game on Thursday. We're actually the first Summer League game from Vegas. Of course, right now, got the California Classic going on. You got the stuff in Salt Lake City, which I've actually been watching. By the way, let me say this right now. I think VJ Edgecombe is going to be something in this league. I saw a lot of Kevin Durant in him. I'm not saying he's going to be Kevin Durant. That's not what I'm saying. But I think he's going to be a player in this league. But let's take a look at it. The Wolves play the Pelicans. Of course, Jeremiah Fears, who was taken by the Pelicans. Derek Queen as well, who they traded the house for, the center from Maryland. And then an undrafted player that they have, Hunter Dickinson. You may remember him as the Kansas big man. Had some big moments for them this year. So it'll be fun to watch him. So a lot to watch on Thursday. Then on Saturday, gets a little less interesting. Against the Nuggets, they didn't have a first-round pick this year, but Midwest fans may remember this name from Northwestern, terrorizing the Gophers. Boo Buie will be playing for the Nuggets, and then also another Big Ten name that some may remember. I remember we talked about him, I believe, in last year's draft or the draft before that. I can't remember. But E.J. Liddell, big man, I believe he got hurt last year or the year before. But big man from Ohio State, he will be playing for the Nuggets. So that's what to watch there. So not super exciting, but I don't know. I always like watching Boo Buie. He was kind of a gopher killer and great over at Northwestern. Then it gets a little more interesting. Tuesday. So next Tuesday, obviously. Pistons. Ron Holland. I believe junior or the second. I can't remember which one it is junior or the second. But the fifth pick in this year's draft, so we'll get to see him play. If he's still active, they may shut him down. But at least on the schedule, he's scheduled to play. And a familiar face, ladies and gentlemen. Wendell Moore Jr. is on the Summer League team. Definitely a Wolves reject, a former first-round pick of the Wolves, but we will get to see him play for the Pistons. And then, honestly, I looked at the Suns roster. As you know, they're kind of in pick purgatory right now. They don't really take many players in the first round because of some of the trades they made. But the Suns, we do play the Suns next Wednesday. Couldn't really find any, and I looked. I couldn't find any interesting names, but I digress. It'll be pro level basketball, or at least close to pro level basketball. I'm satisfied. So, like I said, the Wolves open up Summer League Thursday against the Pelicans. Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, and Hunter Dickinson on deck. But do those names mean anything when you got Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham, and Jalen Clark? Not in my book. So I'm excited for Summer League. It's a nice little reprieve. You get to the NBA Finals, you get a little break, and then boom, straight into Summer League. Get to see some of your younger guys excel and be the players that the Wolves saw when they drafted them. So that's our Summer League preview. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. We are so close to 400 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe and give a like and 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. We are going to be covering Summer League like a book, and we're going to have a fun episode. I got a friend who's a huge Lynx fan, and they're obviously killing it this year. So in about 2 weeks, we're going to do a bonus episode just about the Minnesota Lynx and what I kind of want to talk about with him. Not really X's and O's stuff, but what's the atmosphere like at Lynx games? Is it close to what the Wolves have? I know they do a little dance at the end. I want to pick his brain about what it's like being a first-time Lynx season ticket holder. But with that said, make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. This is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. And as always, go Wolves. Enjoy the Summer League.